All right. Good morning, everyone. So we are continuing on our class, which is your role in the body. So we're talking about different roles that are available in the body, and where maybe you fit in the body individually, how we can help others to grow in their gifts or their roles, and then how the church functions in each of those roles as well, for the purpose of growing the body together. So today we're as part 2 of encouragement. Started part 1 last week. So sorry to those of you who have been in here every class and have heard this every time, but I know that we have people who are in and out and people who might be might be in this class for the first time. And so I do want to go over kind of the foundational level of why we're doing this class and again, the foundational level of it. So the whole point of this class is practical application. So it's to stir up action in individuals so that they can use their gifts to be part of the body in unity with the body and to help grow the body. Gifts are defined as the combination of God-given talent and passion. And so we know that there are miraculous gifts that it talks about, such as the gift of tongues, the gift of healing, the gift of knowledge, those types of things. That's not what this class is talking about. You could substitute the word role instead, but gift just meaning something that comes from God that you have the natural talent to do, and the thing that you are passionate about, the thing you desire to do, the thing that you're focused on within the body. So today when we're talking about encouragement, it's people who are naturally those types of people who are encouraging people, who make a point to go and tell other people and to encourage them to continue on doing what they're doing. We're going to look at this through 3 lenses. First of all, the self-assessment lens, and then hopefully today we'll get on to the how do we encourage encouragers? How do we mentor people who are encouraging, who are encouragers? And then finally, do we as a church body do a good job of encouraging others? As always, these gifts need to be used in love. If not, then they're worthless. And that's what 1 Corinthians 13 tells us. You can also look at Colossians chapter 3, verses 12 through 14. So whatever your gift is, you need to use it in unity with the body. You need to use it in love. I think I said last week it'd be hard to picture using encouragement not in love, but I'm sure that it's absolutely possible. So make sure you're using your gift in love if you want it to be effective. And then when we talk about the body overall, so Romans chapter 12 and 1 Corinthians chapter 12 talk about the body. And when we discussed that in our introductory class, we found that everyone has gifts and everyone is expected to use them. All gifts are useful and necessary for the functioning of the body, and the unseen gifts might be the most impactful. So last week, I did the sermon, the lesson, I guess whatever you want to call it, and we talked a lot about what it meant to send out disciples. How do we do that? What's the process for that? And so hopefully this ties into that process. We talked about reach, teach, equip, and send. So first of all, you reach out to people in the community or wherever you're at, and you bring them into the church body, and then you teach the people in the body, which then equips them for good work, equips them for work of ministry, equips them to then be able to also go out and to teach and to evangelize and do those types of things. And then the natural result of that is then people are sent out to go do those same things other places. Again, the whole point of this is to try to build up the body. So in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 12, after the listing of kind of the different gifts, it says it's for the equipping of the saints for the work of service to the building up of the body of Christ, until we all attain to the unity of the faith in the knowledge of the Son of God, to a mature man, to the measure, the stature which belongs to the fullness of Christ. So again, that's the whole point of this, is to try to, how do we all function together within the body, within unity, to build up the body, so that we can all grow in knowledge and in maturity, and then the outpouring of that is then reaching out and continuing this out in our community and in other places. So, as I said in the previous slide, gifts should be used in love. And then 2 sides of the same coin. You need to be humble in your gift, but also don't be discouraged if other people are maybe better at that same gift than you are, or if you're just not sure about it, you're not sure where you want to go with it. So I'll put in another plug for findmyspiritualgift.com. So that's where you can go if you're just like, I don't know what my gift is. I don't know where to start. That's a good starting point. That is not the be-all, end-all. It's essentially an 80-question test that asks you a whole bunch of questions, and it's just a scale of like, I never do this. I sometimes do this. I always do this. On a scale. And then it takes that and kind of orders the results in order of highest to lowest. Start with the highest and see if that's your gift and work on down. It's based on a book called Spiritual Giftedness by Doug Hamilton. It's $15 on Amazon. Something I was thinking about this week is that another reason to get this, besides the fact that you would be supporting a minister who's done good work here, is the fact that he comes at it from a different angle than I do. And so it'd be good to hear his perspective on things because I change it a little bit as we go along. So this is just real quick before we get to where we left off last week. So we're talking about encouragement last week and today. Essentially, it just means, the Greek word means to call beside or near. And in English, the word exhort, which we don't often hear unless we're in church, right, is to strongly encourage or urge someone to do something. So it means to give support, confidence, or hope. We'll talk about how there's the downside of encouraging someone to do something if maybe they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. I say this is another point I kind of want to bring home, is that all of us should be doing all these things. So whether it's teaching, mercy giving, nurturing, those types of things, all of us should be doing all of those. But this is more specific to the people who have the gift of encouragement. So again, the people who, that's their natural talent, and that's the thing that they're focused on. And we talked about last week, which I thought was interesting. If you have your gift and you have kind of the gift that's like the opposite of you, if you can really work on that, that really strengthens you in your current gift. So we're talking about encouragement and confrontation are two different things. One is trying to encourage people to continue doing something, whereas confrontation is, hey, this is something you can do better at, or this is something that I don't agree with, let's talk about it. So if you can combine confrontation and encouragement together, you would be really impactful in being able to use your gift, whether it's in encouragement or whether it's in confrontation, because encouragement sometimes needs to be, hey, to do something a little bit differently or to do something in a different way. So the gift of encouragement is people who are consistently positive, welcoming, and intentional about building others up. So this results in instilling and maintaining a comfortable and uplifting environment in the body. Encouragers can be active through both word and deed. So it's not just going and talking to someone. Obviously, that's most of the time what encouragement means. I would say that Addie and I have received encouragement by people. We've had different times, people giving us a gift card and saying, hey, you're doing a really good job in this. I want to encourage you to continue. Here's a date night on us, and that means a lot. So it doesn't just have to be talking to people, but it can also be ways that you do things creatively, right? So I said last week I was hesitant to say that encouragers set the culture, because I think culture starts at the top with the leadership. But encouragers do a great job of doing the best they can with whatever the culture is. I would say if we have a good culture, then encouragers are going to maintain that, and they're going to make that culture, the positives of that be as good as they could be. They're the glue of the body. So if we think about the body in terms of what it talks about, again, in Romans 12 or 1 Corinthians 12, how the body is made up of different parts. So we have the feet, hands, ears, eyes, all those things. And maybe you could start lining up which gift is which part of the body. But I would say the encouragers are kind of like the tendons and ligaments. They're the things that go between all those and bring them all together. Whether it's someone who's teaching, someone who's evangelizing, those types of things, going to them and encouraging, or someone who gives, going and encouraging them to continue in that gift and to help them to grow in that gift. We went through several passages last week, and this is where we're going to pick back up with 1 Thessalonians 4:16 through 18. But just before we get into that, I think the passage that we talked about most last week was 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 3 through 7, essentially saying that all these gifts come from God. So everything that we do is a reflection of what we have from God, from Jesus who is God, right? So whether it's the gift of teaching or the gift of, if you're a missionary or whatever it is, we're reflecting the same thing that we get from God, and everything comes back from him. We receive everything from him. So in encouragement, it's God who encourages us, and then we pass that encouragement on to other people. which is going to tie into 1 Thessalonians 4, verses 16 through 18, which is, "For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive, who remain, will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so we will always be with the Lord. Therefore, comfort one another with these words." So the point here is not to talk about end times or anything like that, or what's going to happen. The point is that eventually, if we're Christians, we're going to heaven. And I don't have to go over all the things that are going on in the world, right? I think it was 6 years ago this weekend is when COVID-19 was officially declared a global pandemic. It seems like things have been crazy ever since then, right? And so we can talk about, we can be discouraged by the things that we see going on in the world, and you turn on the news and you just want to turn it back off. But what we can be encouraged by is the hope that we have of being in heaven with Jesus. And we can pass that encouragement on to others. So, signs of maturity in someone who is an encourager. First of all, their attitude. So they are self-driven, they are optimists, and they are motivators. Again, we talked last week about how they are consistently positive. So yes, we're going to get to this on the immature side. There are times when maybe positivity isn't needed. There's times for seriousness in a conversation. But generally speaking, they are the people who bring that positive side of whatever the situation is so that we have that perspective. I've talked about how I would say that I'm a realist, which means I come off as negative most of the time. But Addie's a very positive person, and that's been contagious and helped me to then be the positive person where I work. So when you work with a bunch of accountants and financial people, we have a tendency to be kind of negative, and I think that April says, no, we don't. not you. Well, maybe you actually don't. But I would say in general, we do provide that negative side because we always tell people, no, you can't spend your money on that. That's illegal. So so sometimes I have to provide that positive perspective to say, I know the situation's probably not going to play out that way, but let's look at it from the positive point of view. Let's hope that it goes this way, and we'll plan that it doesn't. So next, they are expressive. So they're creative, they're communicators, and they're practical. Once again, this doesn't need to be just something that's said to someone. It doesn't have to be the same thing every time. But people who are encouragers do it in different ways, and they're creative in doing so. And then finally, they have healthy, well, it's not final, but final on this list. They have healthy relationships. So they're unifiers, they're friendly, and they're counselors. Again, they're the glue that holds the congregation together. So maybe it's as simple as, hey, I know this person is struggling with this. I know this person has been through that issue. Why don't I connect those people? It can be something as simple as that. So being those connectors throughout the congregation, if you're not the person, if you're in addition to being someone who goes up and helps encourage someone on a one-to-one basis. But signs of immaturity, they are impulsive. So they tend to interrupt, they tend to act without thinking, and tend to move too fast in big decisions. So if you're too needy for connection, sometimes that can come across in a bad way, especially if you're like interrupting a serious conversation to encourage someone. It might not come off very well. So again, it's immaturity versus maturity and knowing when and where to use whatever gift you have, but today obviously encouragement. They have unstable emotions. They're prone to depression, prone to be unrealistic, prone to be overly humorous. So this is kind of, I think Aaron had a comment on this last week. There are times when you need to be serious and times when maybe joking around or being positive won't be taken very well. Ironically, I can be on that, I've been on that side sometimes where, because I just apparently don't read emotion. So somebody will say something and I'll laugh about it because, I don't know, that's just my reaction. And then I'm told that that was not appreciated to laugh at that situation. And it's happened to me through multiple people. So I would say that would then be the same thing here with encouragement. Sometimes, again, making jokes or trying to make the situation lighter might not be the time and place for that. Also, when it talks about being prone to depression, if you're always the person encouraging others and never receiving that, that's when, if what you feel like is you're pouring so much into other people and no one's doing that to you, then that can be a time in which it will show your immaturity in not seeking that out as well. And so that's going to be something we're going to talk about in our ideas for action. Then they are often intense. So encourage others into action, they encourage others into inactivity, and encourage others into ignorance. Encouragers tend to be non-confrontational, at least that's something that Doug has in the book. And so if you're afraid of giving correction to people, sometimes you could encourage them in a way that might not be the most effective, or you could encourage someone to do something that they shouldn't be doing, or going down a path that they shouldn't be going down. And so again, if you can combine the opposite of your gift with your gift, you can become much more effective in it and much more mature in it as well. Okay. So here are a list of questions that would describe the encourager. So as we're reading through these, just think about if like 6 of these or all of them really hit home for you, you probably are an encourager. So I am concerned about the comfort of others. I feel the need to make people feel welcome. I feel compelled to smile when around others. People say that I hold a positive outlook on life. I am motivated by people more than tasks. I make people feel positive about themselves. I build confidence in those who are unsure of themselves. I am sensitive towards others who are in trouble or in crisis. And again, if you go to myspiritualgift.com, you can find, essentially, these are the questions that are asked, and then you rate them, and it's all of them together, and then it compiles which ones are the highest, which ones you rated the highest. So, I'll give you just a second to continue looking at these. Because if you think you have the gift of encouragement, who in here thinks that they have this gift? Tracy does. Anyone from this table? We're going to call out my family, you know. Well, if you think that you have this gift and this isn't scary, we just want to learn more from you into how, well, all these questions we're going to ask. So we're going to ask Tracy these questions until someone else volunteers to answer questions as well. So how do you view the world? It's kind of open-ended.
In what context? I mean,
just in general. Like as you're going through life, or maybe as you're in church, what are the things you look at? What are the things that...
well, I've been told I walk around with my head in the clouds. That on a positive note, I mean, I think everything has a cycle. I think if we have a positive attitude, we can make it better. And if we don't like something, then we need to work to try to change it. And so we have that power. Yeah, so I don't like conflict. He said, don't run from it. But when conflict enters personally, at times I want to just, I've actually told Troy, we need to move now, like that extreme, because, so that's where the emotions, the bad emotions come in for me, because I am an emotional person. So, but I don't know, I do have a positive outlook on things. I think everybody can do the things they need to do, and I think if we can get along, and I don't know.
Yeah.
And as a world as a whole, God made it, you know, so there's a faith aspect in it, and so he's in charge, he's in control, and, you know, he's given us some powers that as far as if we were to just lean into him, we can do anything.
Yeah, that's a good perspective that we all need. Would you say you have the gift of encouragement?
Yeah.
It's almost
Well,
like why I
I
was
try.
pointing towards this table.
Yeah. I just had a question about one thing you said was that the gift of encouragement was a combination of encouragement and
I have more
confrontation.
questions. Sorry, go ahead.
It's a combination of encouragement and confrontational. But then I thought you said encouragement was non-confrontational.
I would say, yeah.
I was just trying to clarify that.
So I would say in general, encouragers are non-confrontational. But if you can be confrontational in an encouraging way, then that's a way that you can be more effective in your gift. Yeah. What would you say gives you energy?
People.
Ah,
Now, my grandchildren
People.
seem to be running me down a little bit at the end of the day. But still, what I would choose to do, even after spending all day taking care of the children, is I want to go be with my people, you know, with the people that, so it is still it's still people driven.
Gotcha.
There was something else I was going to say. Oh, as far as the giving encouragement and stuff too, I am aware of those that accept the encouragement too, or, and so I'm willing to tell people, and if they're teachable, give them more of that, because there are some people that won't listen or take what you say, and so that becomes confrontational to me, so I'll stop giving those words of encouragement, and so, yeah, I don't know if that's helpful or not, but.
So how are you active in your gift?
I don't know. Other people might want to
Yeah,
say whether.
So like if you see someone who you might think needs to be encouraged, like what's kind of the way you would go about that?
I'll either tell them directly, maybe send them a text message,
Okay.
or trying to act on that, because there's times that it enters my head and I don't say it, but I am trying to be better about jumping on that and letting them know, you're doing a good job. I see the growth in you. I've seen the changes you've made, and it's amazing. You're doing a great job with whatever, and so, yeah.
So you said jump on it right away. So that would kind of tie into when we're talking about maturity versus immaturity, how you need to know when to jump in because it's an appropriate situation versus
Right.
you jump in and you're like, ooh, that was too much.
Yeah.
Seems like we have.
I think I'm an encourager. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know, at work, I'm the one that always wants everybody to feel welcome. I'm the one with the positive outlook. I don't have to tell anybody that they're doing anything illegal usually, but like you said. But I don't know. I like people to be comfortable. I don't like conflict, so I try to fix the conflict.
There you go. That makes sense. Still have more questions. What are some things you've learned about using your gift effectively?
One of those I feel like is knowing when to use it. And so, and I think I need to be a little bit less afraid to say things, because I think people need it. Even if I think people are hungry for it. And so I think I need to keep at it, even if you've been burned a couple times by people, just to keep on it. It is, if it's a gift, and you need to use it, whether people have turned you away or not. So, yeah.
Yeah. Wade, you have the microphone.
Going back a little bit about what gives you energy, I'm like with Tracy, I love to be around people. I'd have to do things by myself a lot of times, but I don't always enjoy being by myself. So I get that energy when I'm able to be around others. And the job that I have, I spend a lot of time with different people, helping them out, making sure that they're getting where they need to, giving them a little encouragement. Hey, if you need to do X, Y, Z, go ahead and do it. And it gives me then also a good feeling knowing that I've helped somebody to do something, to get wherever they're going, or to point them in the right direction where they need to get to. So that's something I've learned is sometimes we just have to kind of step out of our comfort zone a little bit to use that gift, to be able to say, okay, here, I'm going to help you. And this kind of takes me out of my comfort zone, but it's because I want to help you. I want to put you on the right path. And sometimes that can be a little difficult, especially if we're very introverted. It can be hard to step out of that, but I'm definitely not introverted. I'm very much an extrovert because, like I said, I love to be around people, and that gives me the strength then to continue.
So being around people gives you energy, but also then when you see them going on to do good things because maybe not the result of your encouragement, but with the boost of your encouragement, that also gives you energy then?
And something that I do is I'm involved heavily with Cub Scouts and watching as they learn things. And just recently I had a group that now is at the Boy Scout level, at the troop level, and it was great to see them. And I even had parents of one of the boys thank me for teaching him and helping him to get where he is now. And that was an encouragement for me as well, to know that, hey, I was able to help teach somebody, and I had them for at least about 4 or 5 years. So it was good to see that growth, and I'll have to check in and see how they're doing now.
Gotcha. So Mike has a...
Just to reinforce from what I've heard here, when you first asked the question, who has this gift? I didn't see many hands go up. Yet I know full and well that there are many in this group. If you watch during the fellowship, when we're handshaking, when we're encouraging people at the beginning of worship service, and when we're out in the foyer, everybody's got this gift. I heard Wade say something about, sometimes we're introverted. I heard Tracy say something about, sometimes we don't want to step forward. Back to Wade's comment, we need to step out of our comfort zones.
Mm-hmm.
So I know better than what I witnessed here this morning, that there are people that are willing to give encouragement.
I agree with what April said, that I don't like to see people uncomfortable, and so I try to look to see if something is making somebody uncomfortable, I try to point out something that is positive, like in the checkout line, well, how do you have many more hours to work? It's going to be such a short time. I mean, just things like that, because you can tell on people's faces, what they're going through, or, I mean, a lot of times people have a facade, but it's easy to see through that and break through that, to me.
Well, I would say that would be the gift, right? Being able,
Yeah.
because I wouldn't say that I could do that. Like, if someone's having, I've been in situations where someone's like, man, something's up with that person. I know something's wrong. I'm like, I did not see that at all. I just thought that things were as normal. But then it turned out that there was something wrong with that person. And so I would say that that's part of the gift, is being able to see that and then taking action to then say, hey, let's, encourage them. What are some pitfalls that you've encountered while using your gift?
I was going to say that you can wear yourself down, because it's just a natural thing to give of yourself, I think. And so you can go and do all the things, in trying to, again, it goes back to the things, trying to make people comfortable, noticing things that are going on around you, and you're so in tune to all that you can hit a wall where you're like, I don't know, that it drains you, I guess, too.
Gotcha.
Or you need to rest briefly. But I do agree with the not settling into, this is my gift, this is where I'm going to stay mode
Yes,
either, which I know
yes.
we've talked about that over
Correct.
and over. So every one of these can be learned, so there's no excuse for not trying it.
Yes,
Yeah.
agreed. I think I've said many times, encouraging is not my thing. But I have to be intentional about going out and saying, okay, what am I going to encourage someone about, and be more specific about it, because it just doesn't come naturally to me. So last question, what's one thing you want other people to know about your gift?
I'm going to jump back to the last one real quick. I
Sure.
think there's times we can be taken advantage of. You asked for the pitfalls. I hate to say that because it is a negative.
That's pretty funny, yeah.
But I have found myself being taken advantage of before, or preyed upon in a way, because you are that type of person. So I think we have to learn to be a little bit guarded too, and protective. I don't know, my husband does a better job of protecting me of some of that now. And so,
Gotcha.
one thing I would like other people to know is that if something is said, it's in love and it's genuine. It's never meant to hurt. And so if there's a correction made, like if I see something that I feel like, an example, I said something to Maria on Wednesday night about her interaction with Lindsay, and you question yourself after the fact. But so in love, she knows this, but things are said in love, and that's where you have to know the person you're speaking with, whether they're teachable and can accept the thing that you said, and that it was met as encouragement, not as a criticism.
And that's something that's good to remember. We had a conversation a couple of classes ago about the type of encouragement that people maybe would take better. I think that there are some of us who are just skeptical naturally, and so it's like, are they being fake when they say that? Like, are they just saying this just to say this? But it's good to know from your perspective, you're like, hey, if I'm telling you something, I mean it. Like, it's not fake. I'm not trying to just say something to make you feel good, although I guess that kind of is part of the point, but.
When I've gotten in situations where I feel like I'm being taken advantage of, you have to learn how to get out of that helpful mode and into a where they're able to be functional on their own. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's part of then being a mature in your gift. Yep.
Sometimes the people we're encountering don't want the encouragement.
Yes.
And that makes it difficult a lot of times, but make sure that what you state is in love. And the end response should be, well, if and when you decide otherwise, make sure that you let me know because I'm here to help support you. And don't give up on them. So,
All right, some ideas for action. So I guess Tracy and Kathy and April, think if there's anything else that I'm missing from this that would be a good idea. So be encouraging, Write notes of encouragement for others. So this doesn't, I guess I was thinking of this from the perspective of, if you don't have anything to do on a Saturday afternoon, you're not around people, maybe that's a time where you can be writing something for someone and encourage them in that way. Memorize encouraging passages from the Bible. So what better place to find encouragement than from reading through Psalms or some, passages like that. And then memorizing those so then you have them, ready to go to when you're talking to someone, you can then pass that passage on to them.
if you're not getting encouragement yourself, that's the place to go to get that kind of encouragement.
Yes, you're getting ahead of me. You're seeing the future over there. So a good way of encouragement, again, is to visit those in the hospital, nursing homes, and shut-ins. So people who are stuck in their situation, for lack of a better term, generally speaking, I found that they really want that connection with other people. So go and be that connection for them. Represent the church family by reaching out to the sick or bereaved. Very similar to this last one. So if you know someone's sick or someone's just had a loved one died and they're in a difficult spot, be the person to go out and connect with them. So develop a closer relationship to people who have this gift. So again, I think this would be good for all of us to find those who have the gift so that it's kind of an iron sharpens iron thing. So you can learn how to be better, but especially this gift, if you're the one always encouraging others, find someone who can be encouraging for you, and then vice versa. And then or the person who is always the encouragement for others, be the encouraging person for them. Volunteer at a halfway house, a home for troubled teens, or a crisis pregnancy center. So this might overlap a little bit with Mercy Giver, but be the positive and encouraging person to people who really need it because they're in a really stressful situation right now. Be the first to visit recent dropouts from the congregation. So there are a million stories of people who they were going to a church and then no one was talking to them, or they were just discouraged for whatever reason, and they just decided not to go one week, and then that turned into not going the next week and the next week. And then someone calls and says, hey, I've missed you the last several weeks, and I really enjoy when you're here, and blah, blah, blah. And then they go, oh, people do care that whether I'm there or not, and then they come back. And Doug in the book actually shares a story about that, where he was kind of just falling away. Someone called and talked to him about it, and he came back, and then, not that have this intent, but then he goes on to do all these great things in ministry, and you never know what effect that's going to have for someone. So just that one word of encouragement or one letter or card may make a huge impact on down the road. You can always teach a class on encouragement, so it doesn't have to be a 6-month class like some idiots like to do, but it could be, a 1-week class or a 2-week class or a 1-month class, something like that, where all of us like to hear from experts, right? So if you're like, hey, I'm good at this is something I can help other people to be better at, maybe that's an opportunity to then teach a class on it. I think this one's pretty good. Be a door greeter before worship and or in the foyer after worship ends. So since Jerry Freeze isn't in here, I always picked on him when he was and in my sermons and everything. He would be the guy who chased people into the parking lot because he noticed that they were in the congregation, no one had talked to them, and they tried to get out quickly. So he would go say, hey, I saw that you were here, encourage you to come back, those types of things. So we have so many people with the university and with Fort Riley that are in and out and maybe visiting, and maybe they think this could be their congregation, those types of things. It's a great opportunity to be that person to go around and find that new person and give them some encouragement. Follow up with new members and visitors. So again, this is ideas for action. So maybe you can get with So I think all the visitor cards and things like that go to Tracy. So maybe if you're an encourager, you can say, hey, Tracy, can I have their email address or their phone numbers, and I'll be that person to reach out to them. Just an idea. Also, let's see if this is something. Oh, yep, it's later on. Organize volunteer appreciation events. So again, I don't want to speak in place of the elders, but if you would say, hey, what if I became that person who organized all these events to make sure that there's no drop-off? Or I have some ideas of different things we can do for these events where we can, again, appreciate or encourage people who are volunteering. And then go to the elders for that, and they can give you your guidelines, and you can be that person. Start a mentorship program for new or young Christians. So, those who are new Christians are oftentimes, maybe not the most vulnerable, but probably the most vulnerable of turning away. You have all this positivity when you get baptized and you've done that, and then the world smacks you in the face again for the first time, and you're like, oh, is it really different? You can be that person to reach out to them and make sure that they are continuing to be strong in their faith. Any other ideas or thoughts of how encouragers can take some action? If you do, we can go back to it. So, how can we encourage encouragers? How can we mentor encouragers? If you are an encourager, how can other people mentor or encourage you?
I've been thinking.
Good.
Amazing. Just in general, in my life, people say, boy, I wish I had some of what you have or what you're on, referring to drugs, I guess. And I always make a joke. I go, no, it's just, a bunch of adrenal flow, which is not accurate, because if it was, I'd be a complete mess. But I came up with something saying that, really, what you need to do to encourage the encouragers, is to make sure that they're not running on a full tank of anxiety and a smaller nitrous oxide tank of depression. Because in many cases, when you're encouraging, you're not really doing it for yourself at all. You are emptying. You're constantly putting out. And it's difficult at times, let me tell you. I will be preaching later, so you'll hear. But that's what encouragers who want to encourage the encouragers should do, is realize that they need to, and anybody who's teaching or dealing with the children or preaching, you need to fill them back up. Yes, the Spirit it'll be with the Spirit, but we are physical creatures. We need to know that that's happening as well.
Kathy.
People seem to appreciate being noticed. If you notice that somebody is new, notice that somebody is visiting, and it makes me feel good when somebody notices me.
Yeah. So I've probably said it before, but when I was in college, I was going to a congregation, and after I went there Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, as it was when I grew up. And then after a year of being there were two people who seemed to actually notice when I was there. And frequently I would have people who are like, hey, where are you from? Are you new? Blah, blah. It's like, I've been here for a year. But so like you're saying, it makes a big difference when someone comes around and says, hey, thank you for being here. I've noticed you here for a while, or whatever the case is. Tracy.
I have a mentor. That's what encourages me is I have a so-and-so, that is a mentor to me. And I often will catch myself saying, what would so-and-so do in this situation? And so that since they've been such a great example, then that can help help me to continue doing what they do well and kind of emulate that. One of the things on the negative side, a couple slides ago, sorry, sometimes it takes me a bit to think through, is what can be hard, I think, is if you attach yourself to the other person's responses. And so I have to be careful that I'm not responsible for how they take the information. I really want to help and I really want to, do these things. And if they don't accept that, I'm not responsible for that. And that's been a learning experience, a maturity thing is I can give and I can walk away. And what you do with that is your choice, not mine.
Gotcha. That's good.
One thing that can give you, I don't know, energy as an encourager is prayer and praying to God and casting your burdens on Him. And then also, if you're feeling kind of burnt out from encouraging, maybe just take a break, because I know breaks sometimes can be rejuvenating. Right now, I'm on spring break from school, and I'm loving it, so.
And enjoy it while you can, right?
I'd like to piggyback a little bit on what Samuel stated, because I've encountered an individual that hasn't been attending, and I've been trying to help and support, but sometimes they don't need or want the help and support. They just want somebody to vent to. But when you go to God in prayer to help you understand how you can address it and what you can say and how you can be guided through the Holy Spirit, that is the point in time that you need to spend with God to help that person out.
Yeah. That's good. All right, we just have a couple minutes left. Oh, not the conclusion. So, how do you think our congregation does that encouragement? Whether we're good or not, are there some ways we can be more effective? I'm very comfortable in awkward silence, by the way. Okay. So, yeah, being aware of the needs that are going on.
I think it goes without saying that we believe in Christ Jesus' life-saving blood, of having faith in that. By encouraging others with that, by just encouraging that Christ is abundant and is there and that He's with you, little things, whenever my kids leave, I always tell them, Mom and Jesus love you, as they leave. And my daughter says, thanks, Dad, I love you too, and leaves. Like, it's just become the thing that just encouraging them that there's a positive, greater being than just your self-absorbed self in what you're looking at, to give a different perspective, that we're not being whipped in front of the synagogue or being nailed to a cross. Life's pretty stinking good. I'm going to have another cup of coffee, I think that kind of stuff gives encouragement.
Gotcha. Charles?
Yeah. As far as this congregation, I'd have to give you a pretty good rating on the way people meet and greet and are attentive to your needs. We were in a congregation before that as soon as they said amen at the end of the closing prayer, the lobby was empty. If you wanted to talk to somebody during the service, you pretty much had to do it before anything occurred during the service, because as soon as, like I said, like the last amen and the cars were pulling out of the driveway. So this congregation has made me feel very comfortable here.
That's good.
Just as a kind of closing thought, I was thinking, I'm not a very good encourager, so I don't know how to tell the encouragers to do better. But I was thinking of ways that the rest of the congregation can help encouragers. That is, be open with your problems. An encourager can't help you if an encourager doesn't know you need help. And so, we were never meant to shoulder our burdens alone. We were supposed to come together. We were supposed to help each other. And so, if we're not open with what we need help with, those who are good at encouraging can't come forward to help us.
Mm-hmm. That was giving my question for piggybacking on April's comment was, how do we know what needs are out there? But it's a good point that you got to be open about what your needs are. Even those of us who don't like sharing, right? All right, so that is all for today. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. And, oh, we have one last.
We did an interesting thing at work. We used Teams,
Yep.
and we created a prayer channel.
Wow.
Now, not everyone are believers, but we created a prayer channel to be used by whoever wants to use it. And it's interesting because one of the owners that I wasn't sure was a believer was the first one to post wanting prayers. So I think that's a good way to know who needs the encouragement, who needs the help.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely come on a Wednesday night. We have it wide open for people to give prayer requests at that time, too. A little less intimidating. So, all right, we are past time. So thank you, everyone, for your comments today, and we will see you next week.